Hi, my name is Ayomide. Welcome to the World Without People podcast, where we journey into some pretty amazing stories of everyday people. I believe strongly in the interconnectedness of our human experience, that we can color and enrich our lives by sharing and learning from our lived experiences. In this concise podcast, I bring to you engaging conversations like a chapter in a vibrant book designed to motivate and encourage and challenge and, of course, brighten your day. My guests also get to ask me one question, and there's no telling what they might come up with. So thank you for tuning in. Grab your coffee or tea, or listen on the go to some amazing stories of real people. After all, what is a world without people? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The World Without People. My name is Ayomide. I am so excited to be here because with my guest, her name is Kemi, and we're going to go into it. Kemi Dada. We've tried to do this a few times, and so
Yes.
thankful for the opportunity to actually really be doing it. Just so you know,
Yes.
behind the scenes stuff that we do. The last time I forgot to put on my mic, so it just happens.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited for you guys to meet Kemi Dada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited because Kemi is the youngest entrepreneur I know who is not doing a traditional career. And I really, really love it. And so I'm so excited for you to be here,
Yes.
Kemi. And let's get into it because I want to know, how did you get into cosmetology in the first place?
So I feel like I was kind of born into it a little bit. So my mom had a shop back in Lagos, Nigeria. What was it called? I forgot what it was called, Sha. But she had a place, it's a very popular one. She had a market there and she sold makeup products and hair. So I was kind of always in it. And then also going to day school in Nigeria. Every single week they were calling a different hairstyle for you, whether it was like salt and pepper or like shuku or something like that. So just going to go get your hair done every Sunday. I was always been in the hair and makeup realm. And then I feel like as I got older, it was honestly people taking a shot on me. And I feel you're one of those people where it was just like, they're like, "Oh, do you do hair?" I was like, "I could do my own hair." And then one thing led to another, and then here we are years later, and I'm actually doing people's hair, and it's actually good now. So
Yes,
yes,
it is. But obviously, let's get past high school and all of that. You moved to America. You come here. And at the time, like you said, I think you were in high school when all of us are like, okay, yeah, let's. I need someone to do my hair. Let's use you, obviously, because you were cheaper at the time as well.
yes,
Now I can't afford Kemi. I just want you all to
you can
know,
afford me by the
but
grace of God, by His grace. Everybody can afford us.
but it's now time for you to make this decision to go to college,
Mhm.
and you didn't want to go to college, and I want to know
No,
what the driving force was behind that, because you're Nigerian, and it's like, okay, yes, I know last born, maybe you're allowed to do whatever, but you're Nigerian first and foremost, like, you go to college. So what was that driving force? Why did you think you couldn't go to college, didn't want to? What was that about?
honestly, now looking back, I don't know why. I think it honestly was a childish mentality that I just felt like. Because I think about the pace that I was back then. I don't even think I was taking hair as seriously as I was by the time I graduated college. So it was just like, I don't know, I just was not a fan of college. And I think also I wanted the out of state experience so bad, but my parents were like, "No, stay
Mm,
and stay, save money." And I was having a fit with that. But like you said, I'm
mhm.
Nigerian. College is like it's not really a question. It's just high school, college. That's what it is. And now, although I don't use my degree, it's something that I don't regret because I felt like I definitely needed that bridge between high school and then now my entrepreneurship journey. And like I said, even though my degree has nothing to do with it, I still needed that moment, and I feel like it still shaped me into who I am. And I'm glad that I went through that path.
I love
Yes.
it. I love it. And it's also good to be able to reflect back and be like, okay,
What were you
maybe I was
thinking?
being silly.
I was being
Because
very silly, like to think that I was gonna go to high school and then that was it.
honestly, remember that. And every time I think about it, I laugh because your parents were also
Oh my
very
god.
like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? Not only was it that they didn't see cosmetology as a main profession, it was like now you don't even want to go to college. So obviously there was
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think it was also more so the out of state part. That was my main thing. Like, I did not want to go to Rutgers. Like, I screamed at all of high school. If you're from Jersey, you know that Rutgers is a school that pretty much every Jersey kid goes. And I screamed it from the mountaintop. I do not want to go to Rutgers, New Jersey. I do not want to go to Rutgers, New Jersey. Guess who's an alumna of Rutgers, New Jersey? It is what it is.
Hey, I am an alumni of Rutgers, New Jersey
Yes.
too, so I don't think it's all that bad. It was terrible, but it was not all that bad.
I just wanted the out of state college experience. I was like, you know what, let me go to Delaware, have a little fun, get a little freedom. And now I look at my life, I'm like, Kemi, you're so realistic right now. Yes,
That's so
yes.
funny. Okay, but let's go back to your parents because they not only did not obviously want you, well, they obviously wanted you to go to college, let me say it that way. And then they wanted you to get a nursing degree. And obviously they were not thinking cosmetology as your main profession. So talk a little bit about how you navigated that with them.
So the nursing thing started because, yeah, the nursing thing is just, as a Nigerian, doctor, lawyer, nurse, one of those fields. You're bound to fall into engineer too. Those are the four main
Mhm.
categories that you fall into. So I think nursing was just their only option because I think one thing that I realized as I got older is a lot of parents, you have to give them grace in life. And although they go about it the wrong way, these are the career paths that they know are secure. Being a content creative, going into cosmetology, this is all brand new. They don't see that and think stable income should be okay. At the end of the day, most parents they just want their kids to be okay. And those 4 degrees are what they know. It's like, okay, my daughter will be okay. As long as she gets a job there, she'll be fine. So I think that was just one of the main pushes to go into nursing for me and not cosmetology. And like I said, at that point I wasn't even taking it as seriously. So I think that was their main drive, but I've learned to be like, okay, they come from a place of good, even though I didn't necessarily agree with it. Their intentions were good for me.
Yeah, and I think, again, having supportive parents still, because now not only have
Woo!
you graduated, but you're also a business owner. So I guess I want you to talk a little bit about how they supported you or how they changed. Like, how did they then become like, okay, I'm your biggest supporter? Because I see your mom now,
My
she's like
mom,
all over, Instagram.
my mom is my biggest supporter. My mom wants my business to win more than I wanted to win sometimes. My mother is my biggest
Yeah.
supporter, and like I said, our parents just want us to do well. And once they began to see that okay, she can provide for herself. And she's not just, oh, I want to run a business, but she's sitting at home all day. They saw me actively working, actively taking courses and steps to better my business. They were like, okay, cool. Because I remember right after I graduated, and I kind of knew that, like, I kind of knew at that point that, like, okay, this is the business that I'm going to do. I didn't really think about applying for a job. And I think like a week or so after my graduation, my dad was like, Kemi, so what are you doing after college? I was like, he goes, okay, think on it and get back to me. And then he didn't ask me again. And I was kind of nervous because I was like, this man's going to go tell me to go get a job. I was like, I didn't want to do that. And then a month later, he goes, Kelly, I asked you a question you didn't answer. I was like, you know what, Dad? I think I just want to do my business. I think I can grow it. Like, if you truly just give me like a year, like, I think I can grow it. And I know that I can put the effort in. And all he said was, okay. And I was like, huh, where's it? Like, I expected a little bit of like rebuttal, like, Kemi, go get a job or something like that. And he was just like, okay. And then my mom constantly posting my work, constantly promoting me. I was like, Kenny, I saw this. Why don't you try this? Tell me, what about this? What about my parents are extremely supportive, but I think they saw me put in the effort and they saw how hard I was working. So they knew that like they got that reassurance that they wanted from the nursing. They kind of got it in this way and then in the sense that okay, she will be okay and she can provide for herself. So I think that helped them be a lot more supportive now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And let's talk a little bit about that because, like you mentioned, right, you start something and you're not obviously an expert at it, right? And then you
I
go
have stories.
into and you go into something that now you're becoming an expert at, where people are also taking training from you. So let's talk a little bit about how you navigated that internally, right? Knowing that, okay, maybe people are giving you bad feedback or negative feedback, or they're unhappy with what happened and how this, happened. And then going to this place where you are now like, okay, it doesn't even matter maybe what they think. I know I did a good job, even if they don't like it, because, beauty can be subjective.
Yeah. that was a big change because I'm very dramatic. And I like to be great at the things that I do. And in the beginning, it's unrealistic to think you're going to start braiding today and in a week your work is going to be like that of somebody that's been doing it for 5 years. It's very unrealistic. But it was unrealistic. I wanted my braids to look like somebody that's been doing it for 5 years. And that was just not the case. And I took a
Mm.
lot of it personally because I was like, why is it not coming out right? I felt bad. And one of my main things was I never wanted somebody to come to me and felt like they wasted their money. So I took a lot of that to heart about not being at the best level. So yeah, so now it's more of a I know that my work is good and now it's just a matter of who fits into my criteria because I'm not going to be for everybody. There's some people that like their knot braids extremely full. There's some people that like it scanty, extremely full. I just know that like you said, beauty is subjective. I'm just not the braider for them. But I know that like just because they like that and I don't provide that, that doesn't affect the quality of my work. I still know that my work is good, and the people that will like my work will come to me.
That's awesome. But okay, let me ask it another way though. What if, say, I've then come to you and like I'm asking for something, and you know, as the provider, for lack of a better term, that this is not going to look good on me or this is not for me? How do
Oof.
you work with clients to obviously maybe give them what they want, but also knowing that, what you want might not necessarily be the best thing for you. So how do you work with that? Because I think that that's one thing about this kind of creative venture that you're in. It's also about your own interpretation of what you think might be
Yeah,
best for that person, and or how you even see it, because you can see the shape of their hair, the shape of their face. Like, it's not just, oh, let's just do any
yeah.
style, right? So how do you work with that?
So in that sense, I feel like I kind of make it feel like it's their decision. So if I some clients they want to try a trending style going on, there may be a style going around that has a lot of baby hairs, but I know that their lifestyle is they're a get up and go. They're not a style babe. They don't have that time for the morning. I'm like, hey girl, like that would be cute, but like you like to get up and go, right? Like this takes a lot of effort. So I kind of explain like my perspective as to why that won't work. And they're like, yeah, you're right. I don't have time to be doing all this in one. And then they kind of get my point of view. Because sometimes you can also see something on somebody and you think it's cute, but when you explain it from like, will this realistically match your lifestyle? Because a lot of hair, people want to do it for a lifestyle, for convenience. And it's just like, I have to tell them like, okay, I know you like it, but you like to
Mm,
get up and go. And this might require a little extra effort in the morning. And then I kind of tell them that, and that usually helps
right.
make it a lot easier. Like, hey, let's maybe think of something else to do.
And I don't know if you answered this question when I said it, or maybe I just didn't ask it directly. So let me go back to it again. So how do you handle your own
Oh,
feelings with the negative feedback, if you get any at all? Like I said, obviously there's a transition with
yeah,
knowing how, knowing you a lot better now. And it's almost like, well, at least I can imagine you not necessarily feeling
yeah.
too bad, because you're just like, I know I did good work, but there's still obviously people just are mad for whatever reason. How do you deal with that?
I still get sad. I can't lie. Even though my work is good and I still know that beauty is subjective, it's still something that I get sad about. But then I kind of just have to tell myself, I'm like, Kemi, you can't make everybody happy. I'm like, even if you did their hair perfectly. And one thing about it is the people that do stuff like this, you can usually sense it through the consultation and throughout the appointment. So even when it's like happened, I wasn't shocked because I had a sense that it was going to come because maybe they weren't even happy. And there was a time where I genuinely just had to stop the appointment altogether because I could tell that like what she was looking for, there was nothing I was gonna do, even if it
Mhm.
was exactly as she said, that she was gonna be happy. So sometimes it takes a little bit of like courage to be like, hi, I'm sorry, I know you were excited for this, but I just don't think I can provide what you're looking for. And it does hurt my feeling, but I have to realize that like I can't make everybody happy and it's just I'm just not the braider for you and hopefully you'll find somebody else that is.
I love that. And I think that's important to put into perspective, because sometimes
Yeah.
a lot of creatives get really hard on themselves. I guess that's why I was really trying to push at that, because, now you've also
Yes.
gone into the space of content creation. And again, the same thing where maybe you're not getting as much likes, or you're not getting as much, shares or whatever, because I feel like this can affect the mental a lot.
It can. It definitely can. And that's been one of my biggest struggles in the sense of trying not to tie my personal validation in life to my business. And it's hard because it's kind of like it's a little bit woven together. So I've been working really hard to not let, because there's some videos that like I'll spend 3 hours working on and it gets like 100 views. And there's a video that I spent 10 minutes on and it gets like 10,000 views. And I'm like, I I barely spent any energy on that, and the one that I wanted to go well and I wanted to go out there didn't go well, and it's so easy to get hard on myself. But I read the book Atomic Habits, and it talked about an accumulation of your habits and the 1 degree. I believe it's called the 1 degree, getting 1 degree better every single day. While although you might be doing something and nothing is happening, at one moment a sudden change can happen. And that does not negate everything that you did. Everything that you're doing is an accumulation. So even if this video doesn't get as much likes that I wanted to get, I'm like, I know it's an accumulation. I look at the video, I'm like, well, you move on. Because I can't like I just can't sit there and worry and like dwell on it. And I think also God knowing that like God is gonna work everything out for my good. And I can't sit there and dwell. And I used to because I'm like, I spent a lot of time on it. I wanted this to go well, I wanted this to do well, but it's not. And I just had to realize that like Kemi, you can't control it. Whatever it's meant to be, God will make it do. All I do is I can pray before the videos and I send it out and I'm just like, it's up to God.
Amen. And so let me even go back into content creation a little bit. So I see that, obviously you're trying to create this huge online presence, but I feel like hair is like free
Yes.
marketing. Like all your clients are already free marketing for you. So is this about marketing, or is this also just maybe an additional part of your own creativity? Because I feel like
Yes.
it's a lot of work to do what you're
Yes.
doing, right? With this whole content creation. And I don't know if it's like, in other words, is it producing more business, or is it just more art for you, like what you like to do?
A little bit of both, actually. So originally, I started it with the intention of marketing and getting more clients in my chair and stuff like that. But ultimately, I realized that I actually do like the art of content creation and creating content for different things. And although I do like it, now it's not more so about marketing for to get clients in my chair. I'm trying to market to a different demographic, which is the actual breeders, because I want to show them that like this is a way that it can be an avenue of something fun for them to do, but also it can also be another avenue of passive income. Like if they get serious on TikTok, they can make income that way, or they can just build a brand if they want to attract students, things that they can do on their page to attract potential students. Because that was the reason why I got into consecration in the first place. I felt like my page was only attracting clients. So I remember when I went into first class and I posted about it and there was no interest. And I'm like, "Ah, why is there no interest?" But I had to realize that like my content was only attracting people that wanted to book my appointment, not people that wanted to learn from me. So then I had to change my content to come across as somebody who's knowledgeable in what she's doing. That way I can then attract potential students. And now a lot of people that I wanted to build a community with, which are other braiders and hairstylists, I am now pulling in that audience through my content now.
Okay, look at us diversifying and becoming, corporation owners. Is that what it is? Okay, okay. All right, I love it. And it's funny because I was going to ask you, right, like solo entrepreneurship at your age, it must seem a little lonely, must seem a little tough. And so, how are you finding your peer networks? But I think, yeah, well, talk a little bit about that, because obviously you have all your friends. I mean, I know a lot of your friends, but they all do traditional work, for lack of a better term. They've gone the traditional path. Some of them are going back to school, that kind of thing. So I mean, again, it must be lonely, it must be tough. So how do you deal with that? It sounds like you're already building community, but there's online community versus physical community. So how are you dealing with all of that?
One thing that I've actually made a pact to do this summer, and I went to my first event recently, is to make active community with people in my field. So I went to a brunch recently that was with a bunch of other business owners, and we were just nice sitting there chatting. Because as much as I can explain to my friends, they're not in that field. So I can share with them, they can reason, they can understand me, but they can sympathize with me, but they can't fully understand me. But other people in my field, they understand me. So trying to do that as well that's been one of my main intentional efforts. And then I also created a group chat a while back of just other hairstylists, and that was another avenue for me to be like, okay, let's keep each other in check. Let's just make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing to continue to grow our business. So stuff like that, trying to actually build personal relationships in real life with other business owners has been like my main goal lately. Because like you said, it does get lonely, and I'm like, I feel like I know you through the internet, but I only know you so much. So now these networking events are a way for me to build actual personal relationships that like it's not just business, but also like business and friendship at the same time.
That's awesome. And are you finding a lot of people in your age group? I mean, it sounds like it's only females for the most part, but are you also finding a lot of people in your age group?
No, which I didn't know that that was so, which is something that's so fascinating. And it goes into a whole different topic about comparison because you see people online, you're like, oh, this 19-year-old is a millionaire, this 20-year-old is doing this. And then it's like I go to these events and I've met these people, and they're people that are like 27, 28, some are in their 30s, and they're just figuring it out. And I'm like, not to even like, it just makes me realize that, like, Kemi, where are you rushing to? Like, because I'm just like, let me go, 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 go. And I'm like, these people are still in their 30s and like
Mhm.
they're still actively figuring it out and they're still happy with their life. That it's just like, I've my mind has gone so warped that I feel like almost every 20-year-old is a millionaire. It's just like it's just a few that you see online, and online is not a
Mhm.
accurate representation of the world. So that has honestly just yeah, but to say the least, they're not my age range, you know.
No, but that's also important to know because we're going to get into some of the things, some of the mental health conversations that we want to have. But you're what, 22, 23?
I'm 23. I turned 24 this year.
Ah, look at that. October
Yes.
babies. By the way, we're both October babies.
October babies rock.
But like I said, I've known you since you were a kid, but I've also known you on this journey since you were at least 18.
Probably younger, but let's say it's
But it's like you've been wanting to be ahead
like
before, before you could say
I want
walk. You were trying to run before you could crawl, right? So I think it's important to now be in it and see that, maybe there's no need to rush. Like take your time.
like I was just gonna say I just have to tell myself that like Kimmy, calm down. You're 23. Like sometimes there are days where I'm just like I wake up and I'm like my eyes are barely open. I'm like, okay, time to start the day. I start going, and I'm like, Kimmy, go sit down and breathe. Just sit down and breathe sometimes because it's just everything will happen the way it's gonna happen. And not to
Mm.
say in a way of laziness, like just sit down and do nothing and hope that something's gonna happen, but in a way that like not just wake up with like this urge to just like go, 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 go. Just breathe and take your time throughout the day, and God will help you.
Amen. It's working from a place of rest. I think it's very important. But okay, what has been the hardest thing for you as a business owner so far?
Honestly, two things. I was dealing with people because people have different personalities and all that. But luckily with that, I haven't been too, I've been really, really blessed with great people. So, but in the beginning, it was a lot challenging for me because I'm a very on time person and life happens and people also run late. So I remember like there were times when people would be like a minute or two late and I'm crying because I'm so upset. And like I was very dramatic that way. But I thank God that I've gone through that and like I've just
Mm.
realized that like give people grace, give people who are gonna be late. It's bound to happen. But now and then the other lesson I've been learning is patience, that things take time. Back to what I said about accumulation of everything that you're doing. I think I was such in a go, go, go. Like I wanted to start something today and by tomorrow I wanted to be like a multi-million dollar business. I had to realize that like business takes time and you have to have patience in this industry unless you're gonna give up very quickly. And it's made me almost go back and be like, go back to the drawing board and think about why you're doing what you're doing. So I don't just be like, oh, let me go get this money or this, but just think about why you're actually doing what you're doing. And ultimately it's to serve people. And like remembering that has helped me with the patience thing. But patience has been like the biggest thing that I've had to learn in this industry.
Okay. And what's been the easiest, if any at all?
The easiest part about it is the people that I've met also. I've met some really, really cool people and we have some great conversations that I'm just like, we met 30 minutes ago. I'm like, why is the conversation flowing like I've known you for 5 years? And we just talk about life and we just chat. And honestly, even on days where like I'm
Mm.
not like the most happiest or whatever, I'll meet people and it's just like my day has just changed because we just have such a great time just talking and just doing people's hair and the conversation just flows. So that's been one of the easiest and most satisfying part about this journey.
And that I think is important because people don't know you, but I know you. And she's an introvert. Like she is an introvert. So now Meeting people, getting to know people, I think that's such an amazing thing. And it's probably why God gave you this skill because he knew you needed to meet people and build a whole family outside of, your parents, your siblings, and the church community. So that's awesome. All right. And so to something that we want to talk about just a little bit because I know you as well is mental health, right? And I know everybody struggles with mental health, but like me, you've also dealt with suicidal ideation. And I don't want us to talk too much about it, but I think sometimes, like you've mentioned now, with business, family, friends, like there's all of this support, there's all of this good things coming on. And sometimes it's like, what's the issue? Like, why are you dealing with any of that? Or, and sometimes I think it's also easy to just blame Satan, right? Like, no, maybe Satan is not the cause for every problem. Now, I'm not saying that we know why any of this is happening necessarily, but I guess one, why is it important that you're willing to talk about this now? Why do you think it's important that we share about, hey, some of us struggle, and then I guess what will you say to anyone who's struggling with the same?
One, I think it's important because two things. One, I got a word about sharing my story and how it'll help somebody else. That's why I'm a lot open to sharing it now. And then number two, honestly, just for people to realize that like it does happen. Because I think sometimes when you think of people being struggle with suicidal ideation and being depressed, you think of somebody that like the worst of life is happening to them. And there were times when I was going through where it was like, realistically, if you looked at my life, there was nothing wrong or sad about it, but I was sad and I didn't want to be here and I struggled with that. And it didn't make sense. But honestly, just sharing it will make people know that like they're not alone and it is something that happens. Just have people that you talk to. And if I could give advice to somebody that would do this, one of my main things that has helped me is they're along the same line is number one, surrender it to God. I felt like there was a time when I struggled with depression and suicidal for a few years and all that. And I always tried to figure it out myself. And then it just got to a point where I was sick and tired of being like sick and tired. And then that mindset, I just felt like it just kept going on and on. And I'm like, okay, there has to be more to this life that like than this. And I felt like I got to a point where I was just like, okay, God, I know they say you're there. Even though I grew up in the church, it was like, God, I can't fight this battle by myself. Do what you need to do and please. And then it wasn't even like a specific day. I just felt like one moment I kind of just realized I'm like, oh, I felt like I experienced what happiness was for like the first time. And I'm like, this is what like life is like. And I'm like, it was such a different path and it's such a different thing. And then even when I did have moments when I went back, I realized it was always when I tried to take control of things and I try to be a control freak of my life. And I just realized that like I truly just have to surrender to God and I have to let it go. And everything is going to happen the way God wants it to. And I just can't stress about life too much.
Yeah. And I think obviously in talking about it, you've sought help. And I think that's the one thing to remember that people should ask for help, right? I remember when I was going through something similar, it was like again, I reached out for help. And I think that's something to kind of put in perspective. Thank you for being willing to share that as well with us. Okay, and so my last question from here is what would you say is the characteristic or the quality that most defines you as you look back over the last 5 7 years, right? So the thing that helped you start college that you didn't even want to go to in the first place, then finish it while starting your business to becoming a business owner.
I would say persistence or persistency, I would say. And one thing that I want whenever life happens and everything, I want people to truly say that she persisted. I feel like that's one thing that I feel like has helped me that like I said, those down days, even though when I'm just like, God, like there were days where I looked into 9 to 5 jobs, but I'm like, I know the promises that God has said over my life. And I'm like, shoot, I want to see it happen too. So I'm like, even if my natural self didn't feel like getting up to work or to do things, I'm like, I am gonna keep going. So I kept being persistent. Is that the English word? I kept being persistent to keep on going and knowing that there's more and there's greater for me. And I'm nowhere near the finish line, and God is still working. And as long as I stay persistent and I keep going and I keep praying and asking God for guidance, I will be fine. But I think that's the main. characteristic that has kept me going and knowing that there's no such thing as giving up.
Amen. I love it. Okay, so where can people find you online and also your physical location?
Yes, you can find me on most platforms at Mida Hair. That's MIDA Hair. I am on YouTube. I share hair tutorials, a little bit of business advice, also my day-to-day life. I share all that on YouTube. On Instagram, you will find me sharing hair content, educational hair content. TikTok, you see me sharing a little bit more about behind the scenes. And then, yeah, those are my main platforms. And then physical location, I am in Woodbridge, New Jersey. If you're looking to get braids done, sew-ins, I am your girl. Come check me out.
Okay, and so they have to go to your Instagram, right, to do appointments.
Yes, they can come to Instagram and shoot me a message, say hi to me, and then we'll chat. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Now you get to ask me one question before we go.
How did you overcome your introvertness? Because you're also an introvert. How did you get over that to know that, like, I'm going to start this?
Thank you, because people don't be believing me. I'm like, see, the fact that you see me outside, honestly, I think I've often thought of having to be outside as an assignment, right? So if I'm going, say, for a wedding or any of that, I could be the one dancing the place up and all of that. But for me, it's an assignment, right? It's an assignment to say, hey, be joyful, rejoice with people when people are rejoicing. So even when I'm sad or whatever, when I have to go outside, I think of it as an assignment. And I think that's how I have made sure to still have a presence.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think online has helped me a lot more. I have more of an online presence. It's just the truth. But if you see me working, especially back then when I used to work, we used to go to the same church. All of that, it was an assignment. I was doing it for something. I was doing it for someone. Half of the time, God, but
Yeah.
sometimes it was like you were just doing it because someone told you to do it, right? And so that's how I look at it. Every time. Like
Yes.
sometimes it's like, man, it's back to back to back. But when I think about it, that it's an assignment. You rejoice with people when you're supposed to rejoice. You mourn with people when when they're mourning. Grieve with people. Whatever it is. That that's kind of helped me a lot.
I love that. I love that.
And that's a good question. I love it. Thank you so much, Kemi. I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Just like you would share with friends about a great book you read, don't forget to share this if you enjoyed it. Connect with us on IG and Twitter at TWWPcast and get details on the website at worldwithoutpeople.org. And hey, remember to make loving others the story of your life. Until next time, this is the world without people.